Welcome back to the Box Brothers podcast. I am Ben, and we are actually going to have a single seater today. Nick wasn't able to join, but I will be with you to preview the Austrian Grand Prix. I'm just going to go through the grid, talk about the teams that are rising, teams that are falling, and then I'm going to give you me and Nick's predictions. So without further ado, let's get into it. Actually, before we get into it today, I want to make one announcement. Nick and I have partnered with Grid Rival. We are one of their collaborators now. And if you guys are interested in going over there, they have this really cool daily fantasy F1 where you get to pick drivers better or worse, like you've been seeing on a couple of our videos. We do have a promo code BROS, so if you want to head over to their app, use the code BROS and you can get up to $100 match on your first deposit. So let's get into the Austrian Grand Prix. It's leg 11 of the F1 calendar. This is one of my favorite tracks of the season. You get high speed, a lot of racing over the course of one lap here, and it should be an exciting race, especially with the upgrades that Ferrari has brought. The new floor that Yuki showed promise on last week before he ultimately got a 10-place grid penalty, but made it up to 13th. So I think that there's opportunity for him and then the McLarens as well. So let's just start at the top of the grid and let's talk about the team in first place, and that's going to be McLaren. So McLaren does come into this race with 334 points. They pretty much have the constructors title locked up. And the big question after last week is, will Lando and Oscar crash again? And I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm pretty sure that they've have the papaya rules. They're going to race cleanly for the most part the rest of the year. And I think it really comes down to where's Lando's mental state. And going into this race, he was on a down. He did have a week off to really regroup and refocus his thoughts. I think he is going to come back focused this week. And I think this is where his season does turn. I do think Lando has the capabilities to win a World Drivers' Championship. I know that he's been a little frustrated with his own performance. He's gotten into scraps with not only Max Verstappen last year, but Oscar Piastri this year. But I think that with his experience in the car and his experience behind the wheel, he will come back and do well this week. It is also one of his best tracks of the year. He looked good in free practice 2 after missing free practice 1. And I think that he is in contention for the pole position and winning this race this year. And his teammate, on the other hand, Oscar Piastri, didn't have the best Canadian Grand Prix, struggled a little bit. Oscar started the race in third and ended up coming home right off the podium. So I think he will struggle again this year. He didn't have the best 2024 race. I believe he started 7th and then made his way back up through the grid with the 2 DNFs of Max Verstappen and Lando Norris in the race last year. He was promoted up to 2nd place. So the end results did look better for him, but without those 2 DNFs, Max and Lando still come up before him. So I think he won't be too far off, but I don't think that he's going to get a podium this week. Moving down to Mercedes, they were essentially the belle of the ball last week in Canada. George ended up coming home first. Kimi ended up coming home third. I think George will be in contention for a podium this week. I don't think that he has enough to make it all the way up to first, but if the Mercedes upgrades continue to show performance like they did in Canada, I mean, I'll eat crow and give George his roses if he can put it on pole again this week. They didn't do so well in free practice 2 after coming out hot in free practice 1. George setting the fastest lap there. He did end up in 6th during free practice 2. So we'll see what happens in free practice 3. He'll definitely be around the rim. Kimi didn't do as hot during both sessions, came in 11th during free practice 1, and then he was 11 again in free practice 2. But knowing him, I believe that the F2 karts do come to Austria, so he is familiar with the track. And I think once they hit free practice 3, dial in their car, they will be a team to be reckoned with come Sunday. Next up is Ferrari. I Did see that they were bringing a new floor, so we'll see how that goes. In free practice 2, Leclerc came home in 5th, Hamilton was 10th, and free practice 1, Hamilton was in 9th, and the Swedish dude, one of Ferrari's reserve up-and-coming drivers, did their practice session. He came in 18th. So Charles is good around this track. He does show pace. He has had a couple issues. I was watching the 2024 race in preparation for this, and I believe that he had wing damage, got into a crash on turn 3 going up the hill, and that kind of ruined his race for most of the Sunday last year. So I don't think that Ferrari is going to make as big of a jump with with their new floor this week. I think the big one is going to come next week when they go to Silverstone, and that will be the make or break race of their season, and whether they can compete with Mercedes and Max and the McLarens for podiums. But I'll wait to see. I'm not expecting too much from Ferrari this week. The 4th team is Red Bull, and it's their home race. I think that Max excels around this track. He's showed that he's very comfortable around the Red Bull ring. I think that he is in a car that can compete for pole. I think that he is in the conversation for the race win. I think the big story and the big excitement that I have this week is from Yuki Tsunoda. Like I had mentioned earlier, he did finally get the new floor that Max has been running. And in Canada, he looked quick in qualifying. Did make it to Q2, which was good for him. He made it to 11th, and then with that 10th place grid penalty, dropped him all the way to the back of the grid. But I think that he showed pace in free practice 2. Came in 7th there, right ahead of Bortoleto and behind Russell. I do think that he's getting more comfortable with that car. I think that he probably will have a good week, and I'm excited to see him have a bounce back after he's really struggled in that Red Bull. So watch for him this Sunday, because I think that he can make a splash and disrupt that top 10. So we move on and we start getting into the midfield, and the first team on my list is Williams here. I know they've been falling back a bit. I think that they are on a good trajectory for 2026. James Valls did just sign his new contract, so they are set with their team principal for the foreseeable future, which is kudos to Williams on getting that deal done. For the rest of the year, I do think that Williams is going to fall back to the midfield. They are currently at 55 points ahead of the next competitor, Haas, in 28. And if we're using just free practice 2, they are not in for a good race. They both came in bottom 5 of the grid today. So Albon came in 16th, Sainz 17th. Their free practice 1 was a little bit better, with Albon in 7th and Sainz in 8th. I do want to see free practice 3 to see where they ultimately end up, but I'm not confident that both Williams will be in the points. So hesitant. This is probably where they will be the rest of the year as other teams stop developing their car, but we'll see the race and see free practice 3 to see where they shake out this weekend. Moving on, we get into Haas. Haas has historically performed really well here. I know in our reel that we made, Hulk and Magnussen both came in the points last year. I have taken Esteban Ocon to do better than 14.5, and so far that is looking, decent. I was a little nervous after pre-practice 1 because Esteban Ocon and Behrman were at the back of the grid in 19 and 20. But in free practice 2, they came alive a little bit. Esteban finished 15th and Behrman finished 18th. I'm hoping that in free practice 3, they are able to change the setup of their car and find a little bit more pace for this race weekend. I am excited about Haas's aspects, and I did pick them to do better, but it's going to be a tight battle. And I think if anyone is going to do well around here out of the 2 drivers that Haas has, I think it's going to be Esteban Ocon. So the next team is going to be the one that has the probably surprise driver of the year in Isaac Hadjar, and that's going to be Racing Bulls, Visa, Cash App, whatever they're calling themselves these days. So Isaac and Liam both didn't have the best Canadian Grand Prix. Liam Lawson did DNF in the race on lap 53, and Isaac came in 16th after riding the hot streak of the triple header. Had a little bit of a setback. probably normal for a rookie to do. I do think that he probably will stay in the midfield. I don't know how well they are going to do around this track. Isaac might sneak into the points, but that's the best chance that they have. He did come in 10th in free practice 1 with Liam being in 15th, and then in free practice 2 we had Lawson in 12th and Hajar in 13th. So they're pecking around that last points finish, but I don't think that they are going to do as well as they did in Monaco. So hesitant on them. I think give Isaac another week, and I think Silverstone will be a much better race for him. So I'm still low on Isaac, and Liam, unless he starts performing, he's going to be replaced by Arvin Lindblad for this upcoming season. Arvin has already gotten the super license exemption, so he will be partaking in free practice sessions for the rest of the year. So his seat is hot, and if he doesn't start performing and cutting that quality gap and race gap to Isaac, it's so long, Liam, and we will see you over in IndyCar. Next, let's talk about Aston Martin. They have the new effect. They're pouring a lot of money into this race venture, and I think it will pay off in the future. Their two drivers had an okay FP1. Stroll came in 13th, Alonso 14th. But free practice 2 is really the exciting part because Stroll put it up in 4th today, which was really out of nowhere. Alonso did go 9th, but that Stroll 4th place is super impressive. So let's see if they can keep that pace. But I think that this would be the first time in 22 races that Stroll would have outqualified Alonso. So let's see if they can keep up this pace. If I had to choose any of the bottom 6 teams to double podium, with Stroll's performance in free practice 2, I probably would put money down on Aston Martin. Now, wrapping up this segment, we have Kick Sauber and Alpine. Bortoleto has looked really good around this track. I know Nick had chosen him to do better than 16 this week. And in free practice 1, he went 6. In free practice 2, he went 8. So if you're looking for a person to put a pick down on Grid Rival, Bortoleto would be my surefire pick this week. I think that he looks really comfortable. I'm hoping that he can keep this pace going and beat Hulk this week, because Hulk has been not doing well after his points finish last year. He did come in 19th in free practice 2 and 12th in free practice 1. It's still a long weekend, and I know how these practice sessions haven't always been the most correlative to what goes on in qualifying, but I do think that Bortoleto looks comfortable. He looks quick, and it's awesome seeing him settle into that car. And then wrapping it up with Alpine, I don't have much to say here. This is technically the last race of Colapinto's contract. I don't think that they're going to replace him with anyone, but you never know with how much change and upheaval is going on there. So I'm staying away from them with a 10-foot pole on anything fantasy or picks related. Colapinto came in 16th in free practice 1 and 20th in free practice 2. And Gasly came in 5th in free practice 1. So he did look good in free practice 1, but then dropped back down to 14th in free practice 2. And we'll see what ultimately comes out of this practice session, but FP3 starts at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the US. So we'll all be up early with y'all watching that before qualifying gets going later in the morning. But I think that does it for this segment. And next up, we have me and Nick's picks predictions. Just for everyone, how this segment works, each race week, me and Nick will choose a top 10 driver, the teammate battle, and then we will pick our podiums and we will get points for each one that we get right. With Nick being out this week, he did text me his competition predictions. And for a top 10 finish, he has gone with Pierre Gasly. For this pick to hit, Nick better hope that Pierre has his FP1 pace over his FP2. For my top 10 pick, I ended up going with the team that I think we'll be battling, hopefully, for a top 10 finish. I'm going to go with the Williams man, Carlos Sainz, coming home in the points. Moving on to the teammate battle, Nick's going with the hot hand of Lance Stroll over Fernando Alonso. That's actually looking really good after practice sessions. Bold choice by Nick because he did give me these at 7 a.m. before free practice 2 started. I think that this is looking like a very good pick to pick up 2 extra points for this week. For my teammate battle, I'm going to go with the rookie and choose Gabriel Bortoleto over Nico Hulkenberg. So he has looked good in both practice sessions, and I think that Bortoleto comes home in the points this week. And finally, wrapping up this competition, Nick gave me his podium, and he's going to go with George in 3rd place, Oscar in 2nd, and then Max coming home with the dub in 1st. And for my podium, I'm going to go George Russell in 3rd, Max coming home in 2nd place. And this person is going to have a bounce back week. And I think Lando Norris shows up around one of his favorite tracks and comes back on the top spot of the podium this week. So yeah, those are our race predictions, and we'll see how well we do this week. But I think that wraps up today. It was a short one, so I'm going to get this out as quickly as possible so it can be done before qualifying. But thank you guys so much for listening. Please go like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube, Instagram. Please leave a rating on Spotify. Leave comments. We love interacting with our fans, our subscribers, the people who follow us. I love and appreciate you, and thank you so much for your support as me and Nick continue to make this F1 content that we love. So with that, we will see you after, most likely maybe qualifying, but definitely after the race. So until then, we got a box. Peace.